Pre-game, time, and distance going, and he's gone!
What is going on, Patriots podcast listeners and fans? Appreciate you hopping in. We're going to dive into the coaching staff and the all-star staff that Mike Rabel has put together here. I think Robert Kraft had a plan coming in when he hired Mike Rabel as soon as he did, knowing that he would have full options across the league to bring in exactly who he wanted, whether it be past assistants, previous head coaches, and a mix of some up and coming risers. But we have an all-star cast at this point of experience mixed with young blood that's uprising in talent and kind of on everybody's watch list in the future. But these guys have put together a blend of experience and talent that could develop into head coaches in the next couple of years. So let's get into it. First off, we have our coordinators set with Josh McDaniels, obviously, and Terrell Williams, first-time defensive coordinator coming from the Lions. And then we have Mike Rabel at head coach. The biggest hire that I like so far is obviously Josh McDaniels, but Doug Marrone, the ex-Jaguars head coach that came in and really took Blake Bortles, who was not an all-star at the time. He was decent, to the AFC Championship. I don't know if you remember in 2017, we had a hell of a game against them. He had Leonard Fournette, and then he had Blake Bortles at quarterback. That was when Stephon Gilmore had one of his best years, best seasons. He made that diving swat pass deflection to solidify the game there. One of my favorite Patriots memories right there. But obviously a guy who has some success at the head coach position, bringing him in. And the best thing about Doug Marrone is he's known around the league as an offensive line guru. He actually went back to offensive line coaching for Alabama. So he got some collegiate experience there recently. And then he also went to the Saints for a couple seasons and was a offensive line coach there, as well as a couple additional roles. So a guy with tons of experience to kind of match with Terrell Williams and Mike Rabel. So you've got four guys who are in their 50s who have 25 plus years of experience. Mike Rabel a little bit less, but obviously he was a Super Bowl champion player. So he can kind of bring that experience and get him up to speed compared to a coach that might have 5 or 10 more years of coaching experience, but didn't play the game. So I'm so pumped with this coaching staff that we have. I mean, this is probably the best full round from special teams, offense, defense, head coach since Bill Belichick, maybe even a little bit better at certain positions because Belichick played 5 different roles as one person, was also the GM. So you only have so much time in the day. So this is the first time we've really kind of brought this many people into Foxborough, into the Patriots Stadium, and built this big of a coaching staff. We had a lot of turnover at position coaches this year, being running backs coach, cornerbacks coach, Brian Belichick, who was kind of surprised we got rid of him for the safeties coach. He's now gone to a collegiate level, so he is no longer coaching for the Patriots, which opens up a lot of room for Patriots to have these kind of big hires that are previous head coaches, tons of experience, veterans in coaching, and then mix that with a blend of young up and coming coaches who have a little bit more of a modern twist to how they approach the coaching and also could develop under the tutelage of these kind of pillars of the offensive defensive coordinator and head coach and Doug Marrone, whether his role will be offensive line mainly, or I'm sure they'll use him in other ways as well to kind of take full advantage of his coaching ability. But I'm so pumped. This coaching staff is set up not only for immediate success to get this team back to great fundamentals, but having the younger kind of up and coming talent at coaching in the certain player positions is going to set us up to kind of grow from within over the next couple seasons and develop these guys where they're here for 5+ years and maybe they're a head coach candidate, seasons down the line. But a couple of the position coaches that I want to talk about, because everybody's pretty much heard by now, our big hires. Tony Dews, who Mike Vrabel brought in from the Jets this past season as a running backs coach. So, we have Antonio Gibson, we have Ramondre Stevenson. Unfortunately, Stevenson, tons of talent, but 7 fumbles this past season. That's more than he had the past 3 seasons combined. So we get kind of some fresh air there at that running backs position where he can come in, take a fresh look at these guys, see what we really have. kind of debate if Ramondre is more of a draft capital at this point to try and potentially trade him. I want to see us keep Gibson, but maybe we can get a fourth, fifth round pick for Stevenson, who's a solid back. But I think at this point, with this draft especially being so deep at running back, we can get a top 100 player at running back, maybe third, fourth round, um, and kind of rebuild that position. Hopefully, get somebody with some pass catching ability as well, because we had the most success when we were obviously Josh McDaniels' offense, but two backs where you have that check down option, takes pressure off of Drake May to have to scramble for his life every play, especially behind the offensive line that we're trying to upgrade over the next couple of seasons through free agency, through draft, obviously, and then developing the players we took in this previous draft. So Tony Dews, he's got 26 years plus experience. And the big thing with some of these smaller position coach hires is a lot of them have worked with Mike Vrabel in Tennessee already, including Tony Dews. I mean, he was there for, several years, and he worked with running backs, tight ends, and he understands what Mike Vrabel is trying to accomplish here in New England. So it kind of gets him up to speed a little bit quicker. As far as the personnel side of it, we did bring in John Stryker, who's kind of an assistant GM in the Giants. So he's going to be the 1-2 tandem with Elliott Wolf to kind of be that second set of eyes, bring his take, what he likes, and help him and Elliott Wolf get exactly the type of players that Mike Vrabel has clearly had a clear goal and a clear view of what type of players he wants to bring in. So that's going to make his job that much easier. And the more brains we can get behind personnel, the better. I wasn't a fan of Matt Groh. I'm pretty sure they stuffed him in a closet somewhere, and he's not making decisions anymore, which is the good thing. He wanted to bring Tyquan Thornton in. That was like his guy. We got speed on the field. Now we do. No, didn't work out. Now he's on Kansas City Chiefs, ready to go to a Super Bowl. So John Stryker, he's going to be helping out in the personnel department. He's a fellow Ohio State alum. He's the director of football administration, and now he comes over here. He's going to be nothing but adding to the success, hopefully, for the next couple seasons. Another guy we brought in was Ashton Grant. So everybody knows Alex Van Pelt, our offensive coordinator this past season, was essentially the de facto quarterbacks coach as well. We did have J.C. McCartney. I don't believe he's with us anymore. So Ashton Grant, who he was an offensive assistant essentially for the Browns. He was there for 5 seasons. Overlap with Mike Vrabel when he was on the Cleveland's coaching staff. So we'll get to see kind of how those two work. And he did kind of was under the tutelage of Alex Van Pelt. So I think AVP did a great job with Drake May this past season. Granted, he wasn't getting starting reps till like week 8. So it kind of puts him in a position to take what he's learned, kind of more of at a modern coaching level, obviously what AVP has taught him, and blend that together and try and help Drake May develop and kind of utilize all of his tools for this upcoming season. Clinton McMillan, he was the later, hire that we just kind of picked up. He was also a former Titans assistant. And he was with Tennessee with Mike Vrabel. He was more of like a defensive line pass rush assistant, which is another position we had turnover at this. We no longer have our 6-year veteran coach at that position, which I think is a good breath of fresh air because our defensive line has struggled. And I think we have good personnel right now between Keon White, Christian Barmore. Obviously, we're going to try and bring in potentially even, Ashton Grant, the kind of solidified pick right now for the Patriots. If the quarterbacks and Travis Hunter go off the board, he's debatably number 1 or 2 talent on the board as far as just overall best players available. And I think defensive line is going to be something we focus on. And I was reading we might even switch up our defensive scheme now of going from a 2-gap defense to a single gap, which in simple terms, it doesn't put as much pressure on the middle linebackers to try and fill a gap based on where the defensive line ends up. The defensive line can know their gap, attack it more aggressively, and I think that's going to result in us getting more QB pressures, also a little bit more sacks, and help get our offense back on the field where our defense isn't out there for 15 play drive every time they get on the field. So those are some of the smaller hires so far with mix of experience, some younger blood in the coaching staff on the position coaches. And I think it's going to be a good blend of getting us back to just playing fundamental football, as well as relating to these younger players and kind of figuring out exactly how we can utilize all the skill we have now, who we probably should get rid of, and what our biggest needs will be via free agency and the draft. So appreciate you guys watching. Can't wait till next season. I'll be coming out with videos hopefully a couple times a week. So hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and I will see you guys next video. Go Pats.